Alright, let's start a new, well, series, I guess. I put a vote out a couple of days ago asking about what kind of videos you guys want to see, because, well, I got less time, to be honest. And I was kind of surprised that the votes were pretty even, to be honest, across the board. You wanted to see all of the games. You wanted to see Total War stuff, Mordheim stuff, and Blood Bowl stuff, including beginner guides for each. So I'm going to kind of work on that the next couple of weeks, I guess, and I'm probably going to dedicate one day to each game, because otherwise I'm going to get lost in trying to keep up. So, well, today we're going to stick with Mordheim, because I've just rolled the Mordheim round, so let's have a look at some Mordheim race work. The way these videos are going to work in this particular series is that I'm going to go through each of the races, starting off by doing a level 0 look at each of the 6 warbands, then having a look at a level 5 version of each of the warbands. Sorry. So basically you can see all the heroes and big guys in action together. I'm not going to keep any of the level 5 warbands that I create though, just to let you know. So I'm going to do that as kind of separate, then delete them. When I'm finished with that, that's 12 videos in theory, then I may put a vote out, decide which race you want to see have action, and then I may go through some things actually in-game. May go for a couple, may go just for one. I'm actually playing each of the campaigns on my own, but may as well stream one as well, just so you guys can see the game in action, I guess. But let's finish off with running through first. So, Witch Hunters. The Order of the Templars of Sigmar was founded in the early days of the Empire. Commonly known as Witch Hunters, these warriors root out evil where it hides amongst men. Depraved chaos cults, hideous mutants, the abominable undead, witches, and sorcerers practicing their black arts. Even the insidious Skaven have been unmasked and destroyed by the zealous efforts of Witch Hunters. To join the Order is to accept a violent and dangerous life. Fear and mercy alike are qualities no Witch Hunter can allow within himself, only unwavering faith in Sigmar. These warriors have come to Mordheim to redeem it from its corruption, or see it purged in fire. Whenever you choose a faction, first you're going to get a story from your character lord. So let's listen to, I forget his name, but the brother, first of all, starting at rank 0.
Gaze upon this blighted place, my brother. Has such abomination ever been visited upon Sigmar's glorious empire before? Well can I understand those who would hearken to the claim that we are being punished for straying from his light. Forgive me, brother. I forget to introduce myself. I am High Capitular Wilhelm Krieger. Long has my family sent its sons to serve the Order of the Silver Hammer, but I felt called to a different path, and took the oaths of the Order of the Anvil. The ways of our God are many. However, here I am fighting beside you all the same. For what man of courage and conscience could sit idle in Wolfenberg Cathedral when our Grand Theogenus has proclaimed Sigmar's punishment upon Mordheim, the city of the damned? For such this place has become, draws all that is evil to it. Here the taint of chaos has gone to ground. Abominable cults of the possessed have risen, flocking to these ruins to celebrate the depravity that has consumed their souls. The vile underfolk, the loathsome Skaven, slink through the desolation. The heretical sisters of Sigmar cloak their iniquities in the name of our God. Opportunistic mercenaries loot the rubble, searching for shards on the hammer of Sigmar. It is that theft which alarms the Grand Theogenus most. Our duty here is twofold. The evils that manifest Mordheim must be purged by sword and flame. The Wordstone shards in the comet must be recovered. Only Sigmar's temple has the wisdom to safely harness the powers of the shards. Only we have rightful claim to them. The wealth the Wordstone can bring to the temple will make us strong enough to bring an end to the division that racks the Empire, and unite mankind once more under a single rule. All glory to mighty Sigmar, that he has chosen us for this sacred duty.
Okay, thanks, Wilhelm. So if anybody is in chat, because I am doing this live, if you have any questions as we go along, please do ask me. I didn't want to do that. So when you first get into a campaign, I've already done the basics, but the same information is here for every single faction, and we start with 700 gold no matter where we start. We can use the veteran system, but if you're new to the game you wouldn't have gotten any veteran skills yet. The point is that you get tasks throughout the game, and when you complete them, then you get veteran skills you can spend on your faction. Because I'm going to potentially keep this group, I'm actually going to use them here. So I'll show you what's available. You have Commander, which helps keep the cost of your upkeep lower. You have a lot of things that offer basic items, etc. throughout the game and consumables. Some of them are useful, some of them not so much, but I don't tend to use these. Evaluator increases buying items when you are selling stuff. No, it's the opposite actually. It reduces price when you want to buy stuff from the shop. Explorer helps your scout and gives you a better chance of having a better mission. The Haggler helps you with your selling of items that you manage to get and you don't need. Healer lowers the cost of treatment. Merchant increases the chance of a sale. Negotiator, which I would guarantee getting every time, means that you get longer to fulfill your shipment requests from your lord. And Renowned means that hiring costs are cheaper, and Scholar means that training costs are cheaper. So we're going to take Renowned. And then we're going to make sure that our Warband is going to remain cheaper, adding both Healer and Commander. We're going to make sure we get more money from sales, because sometimes money gets a little bit tight. Not that one. Not that one either. Misclick. That one. And then finally we're going to take Scholar, so training is going to be cheaper when we finally get to that, because it's one of the most important things in the game. Now then, having a look at Warband management. We've already gone through it again, but we can name our team. I'm fine with the Sin Seekers, we'll stick with that for now. I may change it later. And leader. Let's pretty him up a bit, I guess. There we go. That's uglying him up, but it will do. And we'll add things. The first thing, when you come into the higher warrior area, you'll get your starting roster, and this is what we're going to look at mostly here. When you start off, you get one type of hero that is related to the race. In the case of the Witch Hunters, you get a Templar Knight, which is basically a tanky melee character that can help your leader, who is relatively ballistic in his main skill. And he has strength and toughness buffs, but he's not very fast, so you're probably going to be parrying with him and basically giving him armor so he doesn't get killed too easily, because he's not likely to dodge. He's got pretty low leadership, his intelligence is pretty awful, and his alertness it's about average. His weapon skill is incredibly high though, his ballistic skill is awful, though he can use bows, and his accuracy is also pretty bad. They're kind of like the henchman options. And then you can see what these specifically mean for each of his stats down here. As you can see, parry is much better than dodge. These are things that are quite important. His initiative is quite high actually at the moment, but if you give him armor it will be lowered. And he does have a movement of 6, so he can move as a normal hero. And here's his chances in terms of battle skills. They're all affected by these traits. And we're going to buy him, because I'm going to buy the actual pieces that are useful, that are meant for the race. Though we also have 2 of the DLC heroes. We have the Smuggler, who is a very good long-range weapon specialist, though she can't use bows, she can only use guns, and she can lay traps for the enemy, though I find that most of the time people don't fall for the trap, so you're relying mostly on her long range. She's very useful in the Sisters of Sigmar, for example, because she's the only ranged unit you can hire, but with the Witch Hunters she's not so useful, and with the humans she's 50-50. She's not very strong, she's not tough at all, and she's got pretty good agility, so she's pretty good at dodging. Her leadership is relatively high, her intelligence is average, and her alertness is slightly above average. Her weapon skill and her ballistic skill are slightly above average, and her accuracy is surprisingly low. She's pretty good at dodging with a 40% chance, and she's not so good at parrying with 20% chance. If you change so she's only holding one weapon though, her dodge chance will go up even more. This one starts with a sword and a knife in her second slot, and I always take the knife off her to give her that extra dodge. And then you have the Wolf Priest of Ulrich, who is basically just a charge in and smack somebody kind of dude, but he's also pretty liable to being smacked himself because he can't dodge for crap. But if you don't give him armor, he has a chance of dodging, to be fair. He's got high strength, high toughness, so you could give him a sword and shield and let him parry, I think. You can't give him a shield, actually, or you can. You can see what they can do here, what they can have here. And yeah, you can't have a shield, sorry. So you can give him a sword, and he can dodge, but otherwise it's not really worth it. His agility is awful, so he's not dodging, and he's not going to be too good at hitting fast pieces. His leadership is low, his intelligence is pretty high, and his alertness is alright. He does have the perk of Divine Spellcaster, meaning that he can cast certain things and get more spells later on. And his initiative is incredibly low. I don't know why it's so low, to be honest, but his initiative is incredibly low, so he almost always goes last. And all the stats are here. So let's just buy the standard hero for now. Add him to the team. And let's make him darker as well, because I don't know why, I just don't like the red on these guys. I kind of feel it's more fitting when they're wearing dark gloves. You can actually change things individually, but I prefer to use the presets early on, because, you know, pieces die, and I don't want to get too attached to them, basically. And when you start off, you have 5 slots. You have your leader, your hero, and 3 henchmen. You also have 3 reserves. A lot of people recommend buying a second leader. I would as well, though I tend to see how the first mission goes before I buy him. So if the leader does particularly well, then there's a good chance that I'm buying a second leader. If the leader doesn't do so well, then I'm probably giving him at least 2 turns in a row, just to give him a little bit of experience. The problem is that later on, you'll have a leader, you won't have a leader that's really experienced, you'll have 2 leaders that are kind of fine if you run the 2 leader build. The positive, of course, is if one of your leaders dies, you've still got an experienced leader. So it's up to you which way you go with that. I tend to go with the 1 leader build, but I have been trying the 2 leader build and it's been alright. I haven't minded it too much. Anyway, the henchmen. There's always 2 henchmen in each faction. The 2 henchmen in the Witch Hunters are the Zealot, who is good at both melee. He's not good, he's average at melee, and he's average at long range attacks, though he's crap at accuracy, as you can see. He's pretty fast, he's able to dodge. He's not very tough, he's not very strong, he's average in both forms, and leadership and intelligence are also average, alertness is slightly above average. So he is slightly quick, and he does have this perk that's not here, but basically every time he gets hit, he gets a vengeance thing that increases his initiative. So you're probably going to get these guys going first, but they're also going to die pretty quickly. Just keep that in mind. These guys do die a lot. Weapon skill, force are slightly above average, ballistic skill is normal, and accuracy is awful. He's pretty good at dodging, and he's pretty good at parrying if you give him a bit of skill ups. I'll talk about skill ups later on, I guess, but maybe I'll talk about it here, I don't know, I'll decide in a minute. And the second one is the Flagellant. And the Flagellant is more somebody who will never run away, basically. I might be wrong, but I think he's not affected by all alone checks, even though it doesn't say it here. But from testing, I don't think all alone actually affects him for some reason. I'm not sure why. I could be talking about the stories as well, but I'm not going to. So average strength, slightly above average toughness. Toughness also adds 2 hit points, by the way, so he's going to last longer than his friend, because he has slightly more hit points. And his agility is pretty poor. His leadership is alright though, meaning that your warband is less likely to rout if... Well, it's more likely to rout if you lose these guys, it's less likely to rout if you lose these guys, basically. Intelligence is abysmal, so magic is always going to affect these guys. Alertness is also only average, weapon skill is average, ballistic skill is average, but he's pretty accurate. So even with this 2-handed weapon, he can actually do some damage. Now, early on, I tend to go for 3 zealots, because if I lose the zealots, it's not a huge deal, and the 2 heroes can still keep fighting, so I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to bother changing their colour. Not this time. Though if one of the zealots dies, there's a good chance I'm replacing them with a flagellant. Though for the first 2 missions, I usually go all zealots, because they're basically expendable at this point. When they start to level up, they're kind of useful, but until then, they're just expendable units that you can throw and hold something in place while you get your hero and lord round to kick its ass, basically. So let's have a look at them in a bit more detail then. So the Witch Hunter Captain. The leader of each band of witch hunters bears a commission from the Grand Theogenist himself, sanctioning whatever action the campaign deems necessary. The men entrusted with such authority are chosen for their unanswering faith and zeal, as well as their tactical acumen and swordsmanship. Any who dare oppose a witch hunter captain can be summarily executed, all with the Temple of Sigmar's blessing. So he has quite a good range of melee weapons he can use. He has quite a decent range of long-range weapons he can use, though he can't use bows, I believe. No, just guns and different types of crossbow. And he has any armor that he wants to wear, you can give them all. And increased magic resistance, because that's basically what he does. And as he's new, he has no injuries, he has no history. So, he does have a skill, Hunter's Patience, increases dodge chance by 10% after a successful dodge attempt, reduces the cost of a counterattack performed in response by 1 offense point. And this is a passive skill, so it's always going to run, you don't need to trigger it in any way. We'll have a look at inventory in just a minute, but the way he starts off with crossbow pistols and a sword, no shield. With this current setup, he can dodge at 60%, so you can keep him as a pretty fast guy. If you give him armor though, I would recommend giving him a shield, just because then his parry goes up, basically, whereas now he's very much a dodging piece. I tend to keep him as a dodgy piece most of the time though, at least early on. And with the crossbow pistols, he's still pretty likely to dodge, and you're also going to get 2 shots off this every time, and it's pretty damn accurate, to be honest. I haven't gone through his stats actually. He's got strength of 5, toughness 5, agility 6, so he's fast. Leadership at 8, which is pretty high. Well, for a leader it's average actually, sorry. Intelligence 6, which is pretty high. Alertness 5, which is also relatively high. And weapon skill, ballistic skill, and accuracy all at 5 each. And if you actually hover over these things, it shows exactly what these guys do. Having a look at the hero very quickly then, the Templar Knight. The younger children of noble lords are the disposed heirs of conquered domains. Templar Knights often seek a position for themselves by offering service to the temples of mankind's gods. Those who serve Sigmar usually end up in the warband of a witch hunter captain, granted the chance to prove the sincerity of their faith by giving battle to the creatures of chaos. Not the creators, that would be hard. Armed and armoured in the finery befitting their noble birth, Templar Knights are nevertheless untested warriors, and their lack of experience can make them over-eager in combat. So, good range of melee weapons, both single-handed and two-handed. Pretty lax ranged options that you can take any type of bow, and any armor you want. And they are the guys that you want to armor up and be the tank in the setup, basically. Again, parry stance is pretty high. If you give him armor, it will increase. We'll have a look at that in a minute if I can buy some from the shop. He also has 2 perks that I didn't look at. Last Stand always fights to the death. He can never actually flee from battle, and immune to all alone, fear, and terror tests. So he's pretty good in terms of that, even though his intelligence is pretty low. Okay. And the Zealot. Men who have suffered great losses, who have had family and fortune taken from them, sometimes find their faith in Sigmar. Faith in Sigmar is all they have left. Sorry, that wasn't an end of a sentence. Casting aside the shambles of their old lives, they become zealots, vengeful pilgrims on a quest to destroy the minions of chaos wherever they can be found. Many zealots were peasants or craftsmen and lack the martial experience of mercenaries, but what they do have is bitterness and rage. These are qualities that cause witch hunters to recruit them, harnessing their fanaticism to visit vengeance upon the evil infesting Mordheim. Pretty decent range of melee, basic bow options in range, and armor only light, no heavy armor, everything else is possible. Right, let's have a look at the shop then and see what we can do with this warband right now. The shop is always random, so what you start with is different every time you start again. And I'm going to take heavy armor for the knight, because it can come in handy. I'm going to take light armor for one of the zealots, and a longbow for maybe the knight. Short bow as well for one of the zealots. I don't really want a shield for my leader, so I'm not going to buy that. I'm good with the crossbows. I'm going to buy the amulets though, because there's nothing better to put in my head. Increasing magic resistance, which can be useful against chaos. And I can take the pendant as well, which is better for all alone, etc. I'll give that to my leader. Not a big fan of a hammer, but I will see if I can use this flail somewhere. And that'll be it for now, I guess. I'm not a big fan of consumables myself, though a lot of people do live and die by them. I personally tend not to use them unless, especially not early game. Late game, maybe. Let's have a look then. I think I'm happy with the setup I already have, but I was going to give him the pendant, so he's more likely to not suffer from fear, terror, etc. Now, let's give you heavy armor and an amulet. I'm going to keep you just as a tank for now, so I'm not actually going to give you one of the 2 bows. We'll make you the reserve fighting piece, and I don't think we can use the flail. No, we can't. Can you use the flail? No, and you can't either, so we just wasted that. But the flagellant can use it, if necessary, if I buy him later. So we'll keep you as a tank. We'll make you into a range specialist. You can have your spear and shield secondary. And I think I've used all these now. No, I haven't. Magic resistance, we'll put it on the tank. And we'll give you the short bow. We'll have 2 ranged units in here then. So we're going to use range mostly as our strategy early on. So what's going to happen here is that the 2 zealots and the Lord are going to cover an area in Overwatch, and then Knight and Malloran are going to fight the pieces that are in front of us. And I've given them armor to help them in the fight. So he was originally... Ah yes, heavy armor actually lowers. Interesting. Let's go back to clothing for a second. No, it doesn't make a difference. All it does is lowers dodge. It doesn't affect parry at all, and I'm not going to be dodging, I'm going to be parrying, so that's going to help a lot in that case. I'll always be 0% dodge, but I'll also always be able to parry at the same level, and if I do get hit, it won't hurt as much. Same with light armor. Parry is slightly higher than dodge. If I remove it, then my dodge is slightly higher than parry, but it doesn't make too much difference, honestly. And I think that's pretty much all I can say for the 0 rank group. Oh yes, there's the vengeance that I told you about. When he gets hit, he gets an extra initiative point. And I didn't look at his skills. Stoic, when engaged with 2 or more enemies, increase melee resistance by 10%. So it's better that he gets surrounded, apparently. So there we go. So I'll leave that as it is for now. If you want to know more in a future one, then leave comments below asking extra questions that I can possibly focus on, though of course this is going to be the group ready now, and we're ready to go into our first campaign match. I'm not going to do that just yet, of course, but that's what's happening now. I'll have a look at the other heroes later on. Nice head. I'll have a look at the other heroes later on when I'm looking at the rank 5 setup, just to go through all of the hero options in the Witch Hunter group. So thank you for watching, if you have watched, and that's all for this one. Bye bye for now.